Hey guys, please go watch Peter review this knife at the Cedric and Ada YouTube channel. It is informative, it is hilarious, and it inspired this video. I'll put a link below. He uncovers more craziness than I can get into here. His video is the definitive work regarding this knife. Thanks, Peter. My goal, should I choose to accept it, is to take one of these dudes, break it down to see how it ticks, then forge one of my own. Well, here it is, straight from Amazon, $20.68 after tax. It's my Husk knife. No, it's my Japa knife. Huh? At any rate, it is a hand-forged knife from Japan. Well, it's a boning knife. Sorry, a Viking boning knife. And it's great for all this stuff. Ooh, no way. It looks like it's also a camping, barbecue, and tactical knife. Well, it comes with a quality sheath. Let's take a look at that first. At this price range, we should temper our expectations. And this leather sheath is quite thin. It's marked up in at least one place. And the stitching sort of pulls out with my fingernail.
What?
All right, well, let's take a look at the knife itself. First of all, it's lightweight and agile. Wait, it's actually sort of heavy at ½ pound, but it's hardened to 60 to 62 HRC.
Uh-oh.
Well, our file shows it's 50 to 55. Well, I mean, this hollow grind allows fine slicing geometry, right? It's a pretty short radius to do any slicing with. More in a minute. In the meantime, let's look at this quality ergonomic handle. The wood is burned from grinding in spots, and it's not flush with a tang, which is proud. In some areas, there's some gaps. I think I can get my fingernail in, but hey, this thing is solidly attached, and for the price, that's not bad. It's a bit blocky. The curvature feels better than I thought it would in my hand, though. The control hole, oh man, no comment. These are sold in several different steels, most notoriously the 1018 pot steel that Peter's knife came in. This one is 7CR17 MOV steel, which we are led to believe is hardened to 60 to 62 HRC. This is a stainless steel made in China, similar to 440A. Gerber has famously used the steel in his survival knife for a bit, and Walmart sells a ton of knives made from the stuff. Apparently, per Wikipedia, it's usually hardened to 55 to 57 HRC. That's sort of low. Our steel, well, remember, it's hardened to less than 55, so I'm actually expecting it to lose its sharpness pretty quickly. It seems pretty sharp out of the box, but there are some areas that snag and drag.
I just put a new edge on it with the TS Prof. It turns out one side is about 27 degrees and the other side is about 17 degrees, 18 degrees. So that's interesting.
After sharpening, we're going to whack it around on this dowel and just sort of see if it holds an edge. So the edge is still sort of serviceable here, although it's starting to catch. Under a microscope, you can see it's rolling out and dimpling. That's really not normal for this amount of use. All right, let's resharpen it and go to Peter's favorite edge retention test, cutting this 10mm seasonal rate. We do 10 cuts at a time and see when the knife stops cutting paper. A low to mid-grade stainless steel usually goes 100 to 150 cuts before snagging. So-called super stainless steels can get into the 200 to 500 cut range before they dull. Now he sharpens his knives to 17 degrees for this test in most cases because that's the optimal angle for edge retention. I'm not reprofiling this edge to a specific angle because most people who use this knife can't or won't do that. And it's going to fail to cleanly cut paper after 30 times through rope. That's pretty bad. Go check out Peter's video for his pot steel edge retention. It's a little worse than this, but this is still pretty bad. I think the low HRC and the wide angle really sort of hurt it in this test. The spine is going to be 0.15 inches at the handle and curiously even thicker 0.16 inches at the tip. Very puzzling bit of geometry. It's 33 thousandths thick right behind the sharpened edge. Quite thick for a kitchen knife. That will reduce slicing and cutting ability in all settings and edge retention in a kitchen environment. There's 6 inches of cutting edge with a roughly 5-inch handle. Total length a hair under 10 inches. It is almost 2 inches wide at the heel of the blade, and the control hole is 7/8 inch diameter. It's a visually pleasing knife. You can't take that away from it.
Alright guys, so I finished sketching the knife up in the computer. I've been handling it a bit, and these are my thoughts. It's just my opinion, but the profile and geometry say this is really sort of a fantasy knife. It's good looking and it can be used for whatever you want, but I think there are better options in just about every case. You know, it's not really a boning knife. Boning knives are like short fillet knives. They're thin, flexible at the tip. Barbecue knives are long and thin, sometimes serrated. They look like a chef knife, nothing like what you see here. This knife is way too heavy, thick, and clunky to be used routinely in the kitchen. That's my opinion. Any slicing advantage from a hollow grind that you might get in the kitchen is probably squandered due to the thickness behind the edge of 33 thou and the short grind radius for such a wide blade. You know, the HRC or hardness in most kitchen knives, 58 to 62. In most cases, this knife is much too soft for that. Edge retention is poor. Ironically, in the kitchen is where the edges may hold up the longest. At any rate, as a camp knife, you know, I don't think so. You know, there aren't many outdoors fixed blades knives that have hollow grinds. I think there's lots of good reasons for that. It feels good in the hand, you know, but again, the thickness and the wonkiness of the handle is not right. The weight and spine thickness are great for the outdoors, but I think poor edge retention is going to be noticed by anyone who uses it for more than 5 to 10 minutes in an outdoor setting. As a hunting knife or a skinner, it's got a great belly. But again, wielding this sort of clunky end here inside an animal or under a skin or hide, it just doesn't seem practical. And when I sold knives at the shop, these guys all wanted to know, and gals wanted to know basically one thing: how many animals could they process before they had to resharpen it? That was their number one thing. And the answer here is probably not even a single animal due to, you know, the toughness of the hide, dirt, and the hair and all that stuff. They need good edge retention hunting knives. So, you know, is it a tactical knife? I'll leave that for someone else. I don't know much about those. Is it a fighting knife? Can you do this with it? I don't know. It's called, at any rate, what's it good for? Well, when I look at it, I think, man, this is like an herb chopper. It's an herb chopper, right? So let's forge our own. We're going to address some geometry issues. Maybe we'll find some other things that it does well. I'm excited. Let's do this.
We're cutting out a blank for reference while forging. I'm going to be using a new steel to me 26C3 steel made by Udo Holm. It has a high carbon content at 1.25%, tiny amounts of manganese, chromium, and silicon, similar to Hitachi white steel with a smidge of chromium added. Allegedly very pure and good for hormones. I saw David Lish use it on Instagram and I thought I should give it a try. Right out of the gate, I fish-mouthed this. I haven't really forged anything to shape in 4 or 5 months. My forging muscles are weak and I'm out of practice. I wasn't ever the best at that stuff, but I should be able to do better than this. We'll still get it dialed in. It just might take a little longer than it should. So this entire time I've been staring at the back of this knife where the lanyard hold goes, just wondering if I was really going to put that in. I had so many issues with it ergonomically that, I'm trying to correct other things here. I can't decide if I'm going to keep that in or not. So I got it pretty thin. I tapered the tang. It's not as thin as I want it on the spine side, so maybe I'll have to work on that next time. I went ahead and lopped off that whatever that was on the end to save weight. It was a little heavier, and then I tempered down this part of the tang and milled out a slot there by hand. You can see it's a little bit rough, but the weight's a lot nicer. I'll probably stick with that. I may do a little more milling here or something, but these are burlap micarta handles. This is going to be 17 thousandths behind the edge. Still a little thick for some chef knives, but it'll be fine for our purposes. Remember, the original was 33, so it's quite an improvement from a slicing geometry standpoint. Tang is just over an 1/8 inch thick here. Tapers down to about 2 to 3/64 here. And it also tapers back this way towards the butt. You can definitely pinch up on it because the handle's narrow enough and it doesn't ride up into this area. So. Yeah, we're going to do an edge retention test just like we did on the first one with the same rope, same style, same method, and see where we go. The HRC here is about 63, best I can tell, within a few points of 63. All right, let's see what happens in the kitchen. You're going to have to forgive my knife skills. And remember, it's not quite a true kitchen knife geometry yet. The spine is still a little thick. The behind the edge thickness could be a few to 5 thousandths less. And the per side sharpening angle of 17 degrees should probably be closer to maybe 12 to 15 degrees nowadays. But still a big improvement over the last knife's geometry. Well, there it is, the Viking Herb Chopper. What did you guys think?